Hi there, everybody. Good morning, or good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending where you are around the world. It's 8 o'clock in the morning here in Seattle. I want to say thank you for joining us today. I'm Don McKenzie. I'm a professor of transportation engineering, and also here is Jeff Band, professor of
Yo,
transportation engineering. Um, so what we're going to do here, we've got a quick slide deck we're going to run through, and then we will invite you to ask any questions that you have about the programs, about research, about education, anything here at the University of Washington. So with that, we'll get going. So again, thank you for joining. We're going to talk today about our transportation engineering graduate programs at the University of Washington. This is one set of programs within the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, and is where a lot of the transportation work at the university happens, although there are opportunities as a transportation engineering student to really build ties across other departments at the university, and that's one of the strengths of our university and our program here. So I also want to kind of start by noting that our program is a bit unique. We've really approached our curriculum with a broader and we think more up-to-date view of what the critical needs in transportation engineering are. And of course, traditionally, transportation engineering involved a lot of design for and operations of streets, roads, and highway systems. And what we see, though, is that the future of transportation engineering is more around, stepping back and thinking about what are the goals. We're trying to provide access to goods and services and opportunities for people. And so um, a good transportation engineer should approach that this is an engineering problem centered around providing and optimizing mobility for people and goods. And that requires understandings of networks, of logistics and optimization concepts. And given the growth in data in transportation systems, that both sort of real-time data and data available for planning, there's an increased emphasis on data collection and management and visualization, statistics and machine learning to analyze that data to enable data-driven decisions and optimization of moving people and goods. And with this kind of evolving and broader view of transportation engineering, come the need to understand a wide variety of disciplines. And so our faculty in transportation engineering here embody a wide variety of disciplines. So many of us have degrees in civil and environmental engineering. That's the department we sit in. But most of us also have degrees outside of civil and environmental engineering in a variety of fields, or have worked in a department, if we don't have a degree, have worked in a department outside of civil and environmental engineering. So a very, very interdisciplinary perspective, which we think is important to having a well-rounded perspective on the field. And also, I think what this reflects is that we welcome students from a variety of disciplines. I know many of you who are on this call have reached out to us at various points. That's probably why you're here, because you contacted us. So we know that many of you are coming from transportation, civil, highway engineering backgrounds, but many of you may be coming from other fields as well. And it is that sort of diversity of perspectives and skill sets that helps to make for a really kind of vibrant and interesting environment here. So we really welcome that in our student body as well. So I want to emphasize that the programs we have, especially our on-campus programs, probably the number one word to describe them is flexible. So these degree programs, we have a pretty light required core of courses. We aim to have students develop competencies, develop skills across, in certain areas, right? Programming, data management, data analysis, optimization, network modeling, and communication. But then the application areas where people work are extremely varied, right? Again, traditionally a lot of highway and street work in the US, but also, freight, transit, clean vehicle infrastructure, resiliency, lots of different application areas. And there's really an opportunity for students to kind of pick out around this required core, pick out the courses within our department and beyond our department that meet their career needs. So I want to just say a little bit just to explain our program. We have a graduate core that is sort of a common requirement across our on-campus graduate programs. And again, this is aligned with needs in transportation engineering and data science. So those 6 courses are listed here. We have a basic research methods in transportation course. CET 511, Planning for People and Freight, is a pretty unique course that I think is something that sets the University of Washington apart. It looks at transportation planning, not just from the perspective of the goals of moving people, but how do we manage scarce public resources like curb space and right-of-way, not just with the goals of moving people, but with moving things, with moving freight around our cities as well. So that's a pretty unique course, treating those in that integrated fashion. Then we have CET 512, which is focused on data collection and data collection. 513 is networks and optimization. Jeff teaches that. Professor Ban teaches that. 521 is data analysis. That's sort of an intermediate applied statistics course that I teach. And 522 is data management and visualization. And so that is our core based around what we see as the essential skills for sort of as a foundation for being a data-driven transportation professional today. And then beyond that, students can choose from a large number of electives. This is the list of elective courses that I guess I don't need to go course by course and name them all, but these are all courses that are taught within the transportation area in civil and environmental engineering. There are, of course, other civil engineering courses people may choose to take. For example, if you were interested in water issues and hydrology and management of water resources around transportation infrastructure, you could take water courses. Many students would look at courses in electrical and computer engineering, industrial and systems engineering, geography, public policy, urban planning, you name it, depending where their interests are. So there's a huge variety of courses available here at this university. And again, I mentioned flexibility already. I want to say it again because flexibility is really the kind of the cornerstone of our graduate programs. And you're here because you probably reached out to us about one of these programs, but we have a sort of a large number of graduate programs going on at the UW. Let me start on the right-hand side and just say a little bit and then not say anything more. We have 2 fully online master's degree programs. We have a Master of Supply Chain Transportation and Logistics program, and we have a Master of Sustainable Transportation program. The MSCTL, the Supply Chain program, is a 2-year online master's degree program. The Master of Sustainable Transportation, MST, is a 3-year fully online degree program. If you have questions about that, by all means, you can ask us or you can connect with the faculty directors of those programs. But what I want to focus on today mostly is our on-campus programs. And there's several different pathways. Several different pathways that we have. There is sort of a traditional thesis-based master's degree that typically is a 2-year degree program. This is for students coming in without a prior master's degree who are really committed to research and are thinking about a PhD program. Those are, that would be sort of the classical student who would take the thesis-based MS program. And that can lead, doesn't have to lead, but it can lead into a PhD program either here or elsewhere. We have a non-thesis master's degree, which is also referred to as our PMP or Professional Master's Program. This is probably the most flexible degree we have. I'll say a little more about it in a moment. But students typically take between 1 and 2 years to complete it. Many of those are going to go out and become working professionals, but some of the students who complete that degree also end up transferring into a PhD program afterwards. So we have that non-thesis. That's probably the most broad in terms of where students go and the amount of time that they take to complete it. And then we have a sort of an internship track master's program. And I've listed it here as our PacTrans Masters. it's really a broader internship master's degree program. So students can take an internship and can earn up to, Jeff, is it 6 credits towards their degree?
Yeah, I think six sometimes can a little bit more than six, but yeah, six is
Yeah. So yeah, typical number would be 6 of your 42 credits would be earned through working as an intern during your studies, and then you submit a report based on that work. So that sort of falls under the umbrella of the non-thesis program. So again, wide range here from those who are very, very research oriented to those who are maybe a little more practice oriented at the other end of the spectrum. And for a master's degree, that's typically 1 to 2 years. And for a PhD, five, five is a very rough number because that really depends on the student. So the time to degree, but I'd say 5 years, like 2 years in a research-based master's and another 3 after that would be a typical time to PhD for someone making sort of typical progress. So our degree programs, our master's programs really are aimed at flexibility. I mentioned this before, and you can see some of the details here. Key difference between the thesis and the non-thesis is in the thesis track, you write a thesis. That's a bigger, more ambitious document. In the non-thesis master's, you write a smaller research paper. And then the internship non-thesis, you have that lighter research requirement, and then also you can earn about 6 credits on an internship. But what I want to stress here is that ultimately you end up with a Master of Science in Civil Engineering degree, and you're taking the same classes. You are in classes with the same set of peers. You have the same professors, and you're ending up in the same degree. So these are different, tailored to different needs and requirements of students, but ultimately kind of get you the same degree. The biggest difference, as I said, between the thesis and non-thesis is what is the minimum research deliverable. The thesis track requires a pretty substantial research contribution in the form of your thesis. The non-thesis track has a lighter research requirement. It's more like writing a research paper. Students can, and Jeff, do you want to say any more about this second point? We've got that finalized now, do we? On
Um,
the additional credits for,
yeah, we are working on that to so that they can, if a student want to do more research under this we call PMP track, they could certainly do, in addition to the minimum requirement of a research paper, they could, finish the research paper and work maybe another quarter with a faculty member by taking, a kind of another class, research related class, or before that. So it's sort of do some research leading to the research paper, right? That's also okay. Yeah.
yeah. So what we're trying to do here is to allow for a long time, we've had some students who are not on the thesis track, but want to do a little deeper research than they would be expected to do for a research paper. And what we're trying to do is allow them to earn some credit. If they're putting in a higher level of effort and coming up with a bigger, higher quality product than a typical research paper, we want that to be reflected in how their credits are awarded. So again, trying to increase flexibility and options for students. So the traditional, quote unquote, traditional graduate school track would be the thesis, MS, and the PhD. It's research intensive. It is very highly competitive because it tends to be limited not so much by capacity in the classroom, but by the availability of funding, because students on this track typically have their tuition and a stipend paid by working as a research or a teaching assistant. And so this means that we just have far more great, fantastic students than we have resources to support them all. And so these tend to be fairly competitive. The professional master's degree is more flexible. It more flexible in timing, more flexible and varied in career outcomes. It is what we call a fee-based program. That means that students on that track, you are not working as a research assistant. You're paying tuition as a student to attend the program, or paying fees as a student to attend the program. I do want to note that if you are a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, there is funding available for domestic applicants, for a limited number of domestic applicants on this PMP track. And that is through our PacTrans Research Center program. So all of our graduate students do research. The reason for this is that as a graduate degree holder from the UW, it is an expectation that you will know how to interpret and apply research. And having participated in the research production experience makes you a much smarter and more cautious and responsible consumer of research. So this is the biggest reason. We feel that understanding research is really important for a graduate degree holder, and doing research is the best way to understand research. Also, this serves to kind of integrate students from all of our different programs so that we don't have our PMP students over here and our thesis students over there. The expectation that everyone does research means it creates an incentive for every student to kind of voluntarily associate themselves with one of the research labs, even if they're not working as an RA, but that gives them a little community to learn from their peers, to share their work, to share ideas, to learn about the ideas that others are developing. There are many, many options, far more than I've listed here, for parallel degrees, certificates, and options. In our PhD program, we have a data science option, for example. This is offered through the UW's eScience Institute. But many of our students will do, a second master's degree in statistics or applied math. We've had students do a certificate in international development. Many students do a second master's degree in urban planning. We have a very good urban planning program here. So lots and lots of options. It's a big university with lots of opportunity beyond just our program and our department.
Dom,
So
can I add
yeah,
a few?
yeah, please.
Yeah. So as Don indicated, our student application, every year the cohort of our graduate program actually has students have pretty diverse background in term, many from civil transportation background, but we also have students from let's say urban planning, from industrial systems engineering, from maybe mechanical at some point, from even economics, applied math, many different areas, computer science, I have data science students. So that's sort of one of the unique feature of our program is we encourage students from diverse background to apply, and we sort of try to cultivate this diverse background, and then students, and you can also see our faculty have a diverse background. That's why it naturally lead to this, and we can sort of leverage and also amplify the strengths of your area and your discipline, and try to find a path for you, and in this transportation, because transportation is also very broad field. So another thing I want to add is, for the last 2 years and also in the near future, we sort of having a program with Washington DOT, which is Department of Transportation. We have 4 or 5 of their working professionals join our graduate program as, to earn their masters. Those are usually, I would say, early or mid-career to mid-career professionals, mostly engineers, sometimes planners. They have their work experience. They join. They share their experience. They all, because most of our students are, fresh, like from undergraduate and join graduate program. So those kind of interactions between the working professionals and fresh kind of graduates, they sometimes create very, very good dynamics and interactions, and also learning experience, right? So from both sides, and also from faculty perspective to teach. I found it's very, very helpful. Just want to share that.
Yeah, I'd love to say that the best thing to happen to our program is our faculty, but I think the best thing to happen to our program in the last few years is this WashDOT Fellows program.
Yeah.
And so credit to the faculty, and I think it was mostly Yin Hai Wang who made it happen. Yeah, tremendous. Like these are, I think, our most junior was probably 8 years or 7 or 8 years out of her bachelor's degree last year.
Yeah.
And others are, more, yeah, very, very mid-career. And so and these are folks who are kind of on the upward track at the state DOT, and the department wants to retain them and prepare them for bigger roles in the future. So for the other students, it's a great chance to learn from them. It is also a fantastic opportunity to network with them and get to know them. Yeah, anyway, anything else, Jeff, before we go?
No, that's good. Yeah.
Okay. So last year we ran a survey of our alumni. We heard from about 25 of them, which is not a great response rate, but nevertheless, we wanted to know kind of what they were earning and what they were doing. And so you can see here on the left, distribution of what their sort of the sector where their first job after graduation was. And so you see that the top was transportation consulting. That's not surprising given how the transportation workforce is set up in the US. Lots of consulting work. Departments of transportation were number two, but they were actually tied with tech jobs. So we have a lot of students who've gone sort of traditional tech, like especially Amazon being based here in Seattle has hired a number of our grads. But also I've had students go to Meta, and just a wide variety, and also companies that are more sort of transportation oriented tech. We've had several of those founded by or with long-standing ties to UW alumni. So we also asked them what about what their starting salary was. And because some of these people had graduated some years ago, we adjusted that for inflation. We found the median starting salary was $106,000. Again, because people had been working for a while, their current salary was higher. The median current salary was $125,000. These are some of the companies where we've had students go as interns, where we've had alumni go, or we've otherwise had ties with. You can see kind of on the left, these are your traditional transportation engineering roles. But we've also had quite a few people go, as I said, into tech, into automotive, national laboratories, transportation startups. There's just a huge variety. And again, it's that variety and that diversity that kind of motivates then in turn why we want our program to be so flexible, because we know our students are going on to such a wide variety of roles. The last thing I want to say is enough about our program. Let's talk about our city. So Seattle is a fantastic place to live. That is downtown and the Space Needle, and in the background, Mount Rainier. So these are kind of the three most iconic landmarks of Seattle. The mountain is fantastic, and it really provides a great natural backdrop to the city. I know we have some international people on the call. Just want to kind of, where is Seattle? We are way up here in the northwestern part of the United States. We are close. We're about 2 hours from Canada. So if you are on a visa that allows you multiple entries, you can visit Vancouver. It's about a 2.5 hour trip. Portland, Oregon is about a 3 hour trip the other direction. So we're up here, nice little part of the world. This is in the bottom left, this is Lake Union, great place for paddle boarding, right in the heart of the city. You can see Seattle is very international. Our region has about 4 million people in it. The city itself is about 750,000, and about 20% of the people in our region are actually born outside the USA. And this map on the right shows where those people have come from, right? So naturally, we have a lot from our neighbors to the south and north in Mexico and Canada, but also many from India, China, Vietnam, the Philippines, but then really much of the world also. So fantastic place. In the winter, there's good skiing here, but not just lifestyle. It's a good place to study transportation. We have many, many different modes. We have a ferry system. We have a sizable freight and container terminal here in the Port of Seattle and Tacoma. We have light rail. We're in the midst of the biggest light rail build out in the United States right now. And we also have some, cool retro transit modes here as well, like our monorail. So again, lots of outdoor opportunities on the volcanoes, skiing. This is Ross Lake. This is where Seattle gets its hydropower from. And again, you have Mount Rainier here, top center. So lots going on here. Now, okay, so what resources do we have? I mentioned before, admissions are pretty competitive for research positions that involve research or teaching assistantships. So that's the typical mode of funding for thesis-based MS and PhD students. Basically, that comes down to an individual advisor who's willing to make you a funding offer. We don't have any kind of like rotation where we admit a pool of students and then pass them around to the different groups. We have an internship program for our domestic PMP students. So if you're a US citizen or permanent resident, you'd be eligible for that. We have teaching assistantships, mostly for PhDs. And then something that's really cool that I should highlight, we have this VALA exchange program, which was established through a gift from an alumnus from our program from many years ago, who wanted to foster greater ties between our region and the Nordic countries. He was Norwegian himself, but this program supports academic exchanges, not just to Norway, but to all of the Nordic countries. That is Scandinavia, plus Finland, plus the Baltic countries of Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. So there's a bunch of different places you can go. And you can, set up, you can kind of find your own host in those countries, or you can connect with faculty who can help you find a host, sometimes based on your interests. And I think students who've done this have found it to be a fantastic opportunity. I think it's worth mentioning, it's helpful because you're funding, if you get a funding offer that comes from an advisor more than it comes, it comes from the department, but it really happens on the say-so, the go-ahead of an individual advisor who's prepared to plan on funding you for the duration of your studies. And so when you need to, I think when you're contacting us, bear in mind that each of us gets literally, and I don't mean this in a bad way. I don't mean this in a we're really special way, but like we get literally hundreds of email inquiries in every admissions cycle. Some faculty respond to those, some don't. And I just so maybe a little patience from you, but also bear in mind that it's really important to differentiate yourself when you're sending those emails. And I'll go ahead and say it. Like when your email is written by ChatGPT, it sounds like 180 out of the other 200 that we got, So there's a small fraction that differentiate themselves, and using AI to write your email is probably not the way to differentiate yourself. Second thing, being an RA is a job, right? So you're funded as a research assistant, but being a research assistant is a job, and you are expected to contribute to the goals of the project that you're working on. So I think it's really important to kind of think about this as a job application as much as it is a school application. And so when you're applying for a job, you want to communicate, what is it that I can do for you as an employer, right? So think about that as well as just, I'm a good student. Like, what is it that you're going to bring as a worker, as a research assistant? I think it's, one of the things that can differentiate you is demonstrating that you have some ideas of your own. But at the same time, this is a balance, because some of the I've had some graduate students. I assume Jeff has had some graduate students who had great ideas, but at the end of the day, they're so uh, committed and attached to their ideas that they're not able to kind of balance between that work and their assistantship work. And so ultimately, the work you do as a research assistant depends on the work that gets funded. So the things that we get contracts and grants to do, and it's sort of like, if we don't get the work done that we have contracts to do, then we don't get any work in the future, and that's not good for anyone. So you want to show that you kind of have creative ideas, but also that you can be flexible in what you work on. So there's a balance you want to strike there. And then I think you want to really identify clearly the faculty whose work aligns with your skills and interests. And like, if right? I just said you got to show that you're flexible, but if you sort of show that like you're flexible enough to work with any one of us, that then it looks like you're sort of, naming everyone serves no identification purpose. So it doesn't help us to kind of like narrow down on what you're actually interested in. So you got to kind of make some prioritization in kind of who you name. And there is a space in the application where they ask you to name faculty you're interested in working with. I think they tell you to name 3. No. Just only name the ones that you're interested in. If you only want to work with one person, name that one person, leave the others blank. If you are interested in a couple, 3, sure, name them all. But you don't want to sort of name everybody. Anything else on that, Jeff, or anything else before we open it up to questions?
No, I think you summarized very well, Don. Thank you. I'm good. We can
Okay,
open up for questions. Yeah.
sure. So I think, you're welcome to put questions in the chat, although we would love to, talk to you. So, we're very much welcome, if you want to raise your hand and turn your camera on and pose your question to us, we welcome that as well. But if for whatever reason, you can only put it in the chat, you're welcome to do that too.
Any questions? Type in the chat is okay too, if you anything related to the program or even Seattle. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm big on the pregnant pause, like let people think and wait and wait and wait. You see it when you take a class from me. Oh,
Um,
you're not
uh,
able to use the raise hand option.
look,
Um,
you
so you
can
know what?
unmute.
You can just jump in if the raise hand is not working.
Yeah.
But I do see. Okay.
You?
So a question from Shan. I've been talking a lot, Jeff. Do you want to take a first question, a first
Oh,
crack at the question
there's a
from
question.
Shan?
Okay. Oh yeah, sure. Just curious about the qualities or experience admission committee value most. Oh, for PhD applications. Well, Don mentioned that this is largely individual faculty's decision. We do discuss as a group, but in the end of the day, it's the individual faculty decision. So it's a little bit specific to each faculty. But I think there's some general kind of understanding of this, like what's kind of research experience you have done, your publication or any other research outcomes, and also your there's a essay part, and also we wanted to see your motivation, and you really determined to have your PhD. You have enthusiastic about research in certain directions, and this is sort of the maybe the starting point, right? It's distinguishes you from the other candidates, and we individual faculty will go ahead and schedule some sort of interview room conversation with the candidate and then go from there, right? There's more question about, the various aspect of the PhD program and your experience and things like that. I think, um, yeah, that's sort of the my 2 cents. Don, please add more.
Yeah, I think it's really specific to the individual faculty member. We have an admissions committee, but the way that committee works, it's mostly, we're not so much sitting around and coming to a joint decision on who to admit. It's more like if just for some reason I come in and I'm like, I want to admit this person, and Jeff and Ann and the others look at this person, they're like, Don, are you out of your mind? Like this person's not qualified, they're going to struggle. It's more like other people could kind of stop and we could discuss, but for the most part, it's going to be the individual faculty member who's the advisor. Um, I can say a little bit about what I look for. If it's someone coming in for a PhD program, I would expect them to have previously published research in a reputable, like an international journal. So I would very rarely admit from direct to a PhD from a bachelor's degree. I would typically admit to a PhD program from a master's degree program. And if you've done a master's degree, my view is you should have done some research in the course of that degree, and it should be good enough that you got it published. Um, is that a hard and fast rule? No. But that's something I typically look for. I look for people who have independent thoughts and ideas and sort of an intrinsic curiosity. So not just an ability to solve problems, but an answer questions, but an ability to sort of pose questions and think up questions about the world and the transportation system. So those are some of the things I look for.
There's a GRE is I see another question from Neda. GRE is not required, I believe, right? It's optional. But the minimum score, I don't know exactly. No, I can look.
Yeah, while you were talking, I looked up our minimum IELTS score. The minimum is 6.5, and this is a university requirement. The minimum is 6.5. The recommended score is a 7.0 on IELTS, and on the TOEFL, that would be a minimum of 80 and a recommended of 92. And so we typically will admit to our graduate program with 92 and above. I think there are cases where we've admitted students with lower than a 92 if, if as a faculty member has talked to that person and is confident in their ability to get their work done.
Yeah.
I can say this is another thing I look for. I would not admit a research track student to study under me with a 92. I'm typically looking for 100 or better on the TOEFL, and more like a yeah, 7.5 on the IELTS. And that's because writing is just such an essential part of being a research student.
Right.
Um,
I
Chu has a hand up.
Before Shu,
Oh,
there's a couple in the chat
oh
who
yeah, yeah.
wrote. Let me quickly answer those. From BL, I want to ask if I start admission process before or after some green flag from the professor. My understanding is you wanted to ask if you wanted to start application process before or after. I think you definitely before because we wouldn't even discuss your case until we see the full application, right? If that's what you're asking. So yeah, sure, go ahead.
Uh, Greetings, everyone.
Hi,
Oh, sorry.
Professor. I would like to know if students have a master degree in US, can the TOEFL test score be waived or is
Yeah,
still a
yeah,
requirement?
it will be. Yes.
Yeah, in fact, I think it's if you have a bachelor's or a master's degree in
And
English
English,
in the
Canada, good too.
US,
Yeah, yeah.
or I think any of a number of other countries where English is the primary language. So there's details for that
Mhm.
on the UW Graduate School website. It can still be useful, right? It can still be useful to us as a piece of information, again, because it tells us something about the quality and your ability to communicate in English. So it would not be a formal requirement if you have a prior degree in English, a prior degree from an English speaking institution, but it can still be helpful.
Thank you. And I have another question is how does this transportation program collaborate as a whole? And more specifically, what opportunities are there for PhD students to work on interdisciplinary projects, perhaps co-advisor or bridging sims?
It's very well. It's happened organically, I would say. But if the student have the need to say code wise by me and Don, we're always happy um, to do that. I did I code wise any student so far? I probably have not, but I'm thinking about one student code wise by me and the industrial system engineering faculty. Yeah, so Don probably have the experience. Yeah.
Yeah, so the two students that where I've had a co-advising setup were both with students in urban planning.
No.
And so I was a co-chair with a professor, Ching Shen, in
Mhm.
urban planning. And so I had a student who graduated a couple of years ago with that setup, and then I have one of my students right now with a similar
Yeah.
arrangement.
Yeah.
I think Jeff, I've had one student where Jeff came in. I can think of one in particular where Jeff came in, Chasen,
Oh, yeah.
where I don't think Jeff was a co-advisor, but he assumed a much higher level of responsibility and input because the students' particular methods were much more aligned with Jeff's expertise. So there can be that kind of like, that's like a soft co-advising, like you're not listed as a co-chair, but you put more into it.
Yeah.
And so it's really flexible. And I think the number one thing, at least that I say when students are putting their committee together, well, the first thing is, look, find good people, like who are going to be, kind and supportive and want to see you succeed. That's the number one thing anywhere. But the second thing is like, be clear on expectations. So what is it you're at? Like, do you need sort of a warm body to read it over? Or are you looking for someone who's going to be really, really deeply involved in giving you direction?
Yeah.
And so you want to have that understanding up front because some people approach it in different ways.
Yeah, I think this is once you get admitted to the program for a PhD student, you have a number of years to work with the advisor. Depending on the topic and your interest, the advisor's sort of overall plan, you'll have a lot of opportunity to discuss about this, your topic, and who will serve in your committee. You have a lot of say about who should you invite. I think, yeah, it's if it's need to happen that way, I think it will happen naturally that way. So I wouldn't worry too much. Yeah.
Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah. Pyrus, I think you've been raising your hands for a long time. Go ahead.
So sorry, I wasn't able to use the feature on the
You
Zoom, so
good?
I
Yeah, you
did
good?
this.
Yeah.
So greetings everyone. I wanted to seek some guidance on two things. So first of all, I have almost 8 years of teaching experience, and I've been working with government and semi-government agencies, as well as I've been interacting with graduate students. So whether mentioning these kind of things in my statement of propose would be better for me or not. And then another question I think I already got answered, because I have a master's degree in transportation. So in the previous slide that Professor Mackenzie elaborated to us, it was stated that the PhD requires around 5 years of time period. So if I have a master's, that period would be less, right? Lesser than the 5-year period that was shown in the slide. That too are my questions that I need some advice from you, Professor.
Yeah. So do you want to take a first cut, Jeff, or do you want?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Don. Yeah.
So I'd say on the first one, so should you mention your experience in your statement? Yes, definitely. That is worth mentioning. And I think the way to make it the strongest and most useful would be if you link that experience to your motivations and even to some of the questions that you have. So, right, not to write your application for you, but in the course of my experiences, I've noticed an ongoing challenges XYZ. One of the limitations of current practices is this. And so that can be really strong motivation. Now, that's not to say that we are like, perfect, we have a project on that, I want you here to do that. But it shows that you can kind of translate between practice, the limitations of practice in the real world, and research needs. And that's, if we're trying to do research that is in some way relevant to the world, being able to kind of translate problems into research questions and then research results back into recommended practices, moving between those is really key. So yeah, you should mention that. On the second question, again, is going to depend on you, right, as the student, but I would say that typically someone with a prior master's degree, because they don't have to write a thesis along the way, they would probably get done quicker. Might be 3, might be 5. I think under 3 would not, might be 3, might be 4. A student could take 5 if they don't do what they need to do. I think under 3 would be pretty aggressive. I think again, 3 is kind of the expected time. I would say if someone comes out of our master's program, rolls straight into a PhD, when you come in cold doing your master's elsewhere, there's a little bit of spin up time. And so I think, under 3 would be challenging. But yeah, probably would not plan on 5 end to end. That would be my read.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a question, do master's students have opportunities for funding through assistantships or other support? I would say mostly the RA-ship. There's a limited TAs that normally we wouldn't use them to admit students. Fellowship for international students, well, there's limited fellowship offers from college and the university, very limited. But if you are applicants from the Chenggung University in Taiwan, there's a special fellowship that you can apply. So if you are in this category, just you can ask questions now, or you can email us. That's a good opportunity, but it's only particular for that university students. So yeah.
Yeah. So but to put a point, yes, there are opportunities for master's students. It would be a thesis master's student would get would go on that assistantship or fellowship track. And then if you're a domestic PMP professional master's program student, we have funding for those master's students as well. Average number of students admitted to the thesis MS program and the number that received funding. It varies year to year. I would say that, okay, our record keeping is not what it should be. We probably admit an average of, what would you say, Jeff, 7 to 8 research track students per year?
Yeah, in our program, normally I would 5 to 6, but last year because of the federal
Yeah,
government
last
issue,
year was bad.
well, so hopefully on average, I think 5 to 8, yes.
Yeah, like an average of 1 to 1.5 per faculty member.
Yeah.
Those are research track students. That's going to be a mix of thesis MS and PhD. Different faculty might have different preferences for whether they bring people in to do PhD or at the thesis MS level. I go back and forth on this. The downside, right, from our perspective of someone as a thesis MS is like if they leave after 2 years, then you've put a lot into developing them, and then they leave right as they're getting to a good level of productivity. The upside is if they don't work out, it's a good painless way to separate if someone's on a thesis MS and you realize that they're not, or the student realizes that maybe they're not, the PhD is not the path for them. It is a really good kind of off ramp. So there's pluses and minuses, and we admit a mix, but the students on that research track are all funded.
Another question in the video, get their funding before they enroll in the program or after? This is for the MS thesis track. I think the answer would be before.
Well, it depends what you mean by before. You don't need to have like your first semester's tuition in your pocket, but we're not going to send you a check either. It's like
That's right.
You get here, I think you're responsible for getting yourself here to Seattle, and then your tuition will be paid, you're going to work as a research assistant. Your tuition will be paid for that quarter that you work as a research assistant, and then you're paid your stipend. You paid twice a month, right? Are they're the same as us, right?
2
Twice
weeks.
a month you get paid.
Yep.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Emmanuel? Okay, thanks. Deadline.
It does answer one question.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Good. The deadline is it December 15th this year still? I assume we haven't changed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good idea. we will consider applications that come in late if we haven't gone through the process yet, but I'd say it's a good idea to, to hit the deadline. Yes, Sitong, you have your hand up?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, I have some questions, so I raised my hand. First of all, I was wondering what the qualities of experience do the faculty find the most compelling in successful this PhD applications. For example, what kind of qualities? Because I think most of the candidates, they have similar qualities. So I was wondering a little bit about these things.
I'll take this first. I wouldn't say most of the candidates have the same quality. It's I really see these two important areas, right? One is your technical, right? So like the course that you've taken, the research experience, the publication that you have, the project you have been working on, those are, hard things that in your resume we can see, right? In your sort of document we can see. Another one is really your personal, like your drive and your motivation and the desire that you wanted to do research and want to become a researcher, or in the future. This partially in your essay or in writing, but it's hard to fully sort of assess by only the document. So we normally would, if we have interest, if your technical part sort of stand up, make you like stand up, then we will schedule interviews with the student to sort of learn about your plan, your motivation, and hopefully can assess more
Yeah.
about the other aspect. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. And also, I understand that the research experience is important for PhD admissions, because I'm just to complete my 1-year master program in the UK, and I plan to submit my dissertation to a conference. So I was wondering, so like how decisive having the journal publications is in the admission applications in this evaluation process. For example, like the strong research potential, the research like experience, potential experience, and relevant experience also be valued, also important. Or like, because for example, I think for the 1-year program, master, and also my undergraduate school is in China, in my country. So basically have the journal publication is a little bit difficult. So yeah, I was wondering about that.
Dom, you want to take that?
Yeah, well, I think I said the controversial thing there. So, no, let me respond. I mean, maybe I was too strong saying, you ought to have a journal publication by the time you apply if you've done a master's. That's probably a little extreme, and that's not practical. I think for someone coming out of a 2-year master's, I would, you'd hope that they have something within that time. But I think one of the advantages of doing a graduate degree in here, and I think some places in other countries, I know there's expectations like, okay, your dissertation, you have to have published this chapter or 2 chapters, 1 or 2 papers out of it. Like, I've been through enough peer reviews as an author, as an editor, and as a reviewer that I will never outsource the judgment of whether a student's work is any good. I will never outsource that to random anonymous peer reviewers. Like, I don't believe in that, because a lot of peer reviewers, there's very low quality feedback. I'll be tactful today for a change and not say things too bluntly, but there's a lot of low quality feedback. It's also very slow. So it's understood that that is hard. And so I think by the same token, like, if it's at some journal that's known to take 1.5 years to turn around reviews, no, that's not a hard requirement to have it. But being able to articulate your research experience, a conference presentation, some kind of something, not just I worked in a lab and I did research, but like I have a product. I think that's really key. You mentioned what qualities are most compelling. So I think, again, some research track record is really compelling to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think also curiosity. So, being able to articulate important questions about, why does something not work in the transportation system? To me, that's important. And being, for me, self-directed, so that I can say, okay, here's what we're trying to do. Here's the goal. Here's the deliverable we have to hit. And you go away, you think about it, and you come back and you wait and say, here's my plan, and I need help on these parts. Do you have any suggestions? What I don't like is having to lay out the plan for someone every step of the way. Other advisors may feel differently. Some people like to micromanage. There's nothing I hate more than micromanaging. So for me, I'm looking for people who are independent and self-motivated.
Okay, got it. Oh, so for the independent research, I also have a question. So basically, is the PhD students are encouraged to publish independently, or sometimes primarily, cooperate or through their advisors project? And also, is there any possibility to cooperate with other students, other colleagues, or the teachers, professors from other departments? So basically,
take that.
like the collaboration culture. I will, yeah.
Yeah, I get your point. Don, you can correct me.
Okay.
My take on this is, if you are PhD students, I would say in principle, yes, but that need to be a case-by-case basis and discussion with the advisor, because on a PhD or master thesis, you are funded, right? So you have certain, you basically you work. I always tell my student, you are not here, we pay you
It's
to
like a
get your
working.
degree. You
Yeah, I
here,
get it.
we pay you to work, right? So because
Yeah.
that's how it works. So because of that, then everything has to be within that sort of work arrangement, right? So if it's totally unrelated, I have concerns. But if there's something that you can work that sort of strengthen your either study or the work experience, I think that's yes. But it has to be a case by case basis, and we have to discuss. Yeah.
Okay, I get it. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
that's something that is, if you're contacting people, either before applying or after having an offer, and if that's something that's important to you, that's something to discuss and understand where they are. I agree this everything's assessed kind of case by case. My general philosophy on this is I think it's good for students to have some independent work without their advisor, because if you're going on the if you want to go on the academic job market, because having sat on a couple of search committees now, one of the first things that people look at is like, okay, have they done anything independent of their advisor? That's like the first question. And so having that is, I think, helpful. So I encourage, I've had students who take term papers in my class and turn them into, publications. I think most of the time they've just done that independently. I think there's once I've been on a paper with students where they came back and there was quite a bit more work we did. But mostly I want students to do that independently. I encourage my students to do it, but where I land with Jeff is that has to be outside the scope of your job responsibilities. So it's like if it's connected to your research assistantship, we should be doing that together, right? And I should be a co-author on it. But if it's like something you do independently with friends, with peers, then that's not just okay. In my view, that's great, but you can't miss out on your primary job responsibilities. Is that?
Yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It's really clear. It's really detailed. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have to be balanced, because I have students who really wanted to work outside with other people and sort of, you have to be balanced on that. Yeah. That's good. I think because of the time, we need to move. I take one more question from the chat, and then we have another hands up from Avi. So the question is about the GRE score and since. So if you took GRE, but if you don't want to report, I don't think you are forced to report those numbers, those scores. Yeah, if that's the question.
Yeah, I think that formally we don't accept them. So you may be able to add them, or you may be able to share the report directly with us. I find that they're helpful. but they're not required at all.
Yeah.
There was a question, and we'll get back to the hands raised too. I think
Okay,
I don't
yeah.
have a hard stop at 9, so we can wrap up the questions. But the question on timeline, worried that some documents might not make it on time. Is there flexibility? If we see your application is in there and it's missing a couple of things, like especially reference letters, okay, letter writers are notorious, right? So if there's things that are, if there are components that are late, that's okay. You just don't want it to be months late. You know, it's like it should arrive within a week or two probably. And hopefully it's not like everything. It's like 1 or 2 things. And yeah, if you've published work and it was in the past, that's totally okay. That's great. Yeah, it's still published research. Evie, you've been really patient. I want to come back. I want to come to you now.
Hi, good morning. First of all, thank you so much for having this information session. And I just wanted to quickly ask, I know that application requires 2 recommendation letters, and if it matters if I submit 3.
No, it's good.
Okay.
Three is great.
Yeah,
More than
it's good.
3, there's diminishing returns to more than 3. but
Right.
I think 3 is helpful actually. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And the other question I had was, I was really interested in the exchange program with the Nordic countries.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if that program is for credit or if it's like something separate from the program and that will add to the like total years of completion of the master's degree.
Don, you wanna?
You know what? I don't know. Do you know, Jeff?
No, I know a little bit. I think you can take classes in the other institution if that helps. I mean, that can be part of your, thesis or dissertation, if that helps. I mean,
So Steve Mensch leads that. I can get the details on that and send it to you. Were you on the sign up? Like, do we have your information?
Yes.
Okay. So, I will follow up with some information on that.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. I don't think it typically delays graduation. Often people are on like a 2-year track if they're doing that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. That's all I
And
had.
Mawuli, you'd had your hand up before. I want to make sure you know you're welcome to ask a question, but maybe you put it down because we answered it.
All right. Actually, no. So I wanted to ask, please, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. So I wanted to ask, what are the professional development opportunities that are available for your graduate students? That's what I wanted to find out.
So professional, well, I don't know what you mean exactly by professional development opportunities. There's a variety of sort of extracurricular activities and associations. So do we currently have an ITE chapter here?
Yeah,
We have an
we do.
ITE chapter, right? Do we have an ASCE student chapter, I think? Those are probably the main ones in transportation, are they not, Jeff?
IT is mainly transportation. ASC, ASC is general for all the cities.
Right. But I think for our transportation students, those are probably the main sort of student organizations.
Yeah, and also the internships. I think that would be also many students, especially graduate students, are actively looking for internships, and many can secure intern after the first quarter to work for either agencies or the consulting companies, or that helps too.
Yeah. Another thing that is, so I think, other things we can mention, PacTrans, again, our university transportation center that's headquartered at the UW, they have conference travel funding. So they have support for student travel to conferences. If you are presenting at a conference, if you have like a paper or poster that you're presenting at a conference, there's travel support available from PacTrans. Often if you're an RA, your advisor may have funding too. And if we have managed our budgets well, we will have at least some. That's not like every conference you want to go to, but typically, 1 or 2 a year. So many students will go to the Transportation Research Board annual meeting in Washington, D.C. in January, but depending on your interests and, you know, the area of transportation you're working in, there may be a different conference you prefer to go to. We also have our PacTrans regional conference, and there's a student conference. So students are welcome and encouraged to participate in the regular conference. This is every October. But then there's a student conference, and it's sort of like a one-day everybody conference, and then the day after it's a one-day student conference. That's sort of student-led, student-organized, and everything. So that's another development opportunity.
Yeah. There's some questions in the chat. I quickly go over. Oh, Wally, are you done or?
Yes, please, I am.
Oh,
Okay, thank you.
One student was asking, the publication was some time ago, like, would it be helpful to mention? I think so, right? So I think it's helpful to mention if that's, you know, your publication. I think it's definitely helpful to mention that. Do we need to mention anything about RA at the time of admission? I'm assuming you're asking if you want to mention that you wanted to apply for RA. I think it does help to. I think there's some button you can click.
Yeah, and I think so. This is a good time to mention there will be a thing like if you're applying for the thesis MS, it's sort of understood that you're applying for that and a research assistantship.
Yeah.
There will then be a box that says, if you don't get into that, are you interested in the non-thesis masters, the PMP? And I just want to stress that, like, don't try to be strategic with the answers. Like, we're never going to take a student that we want as an RA and be like, oh, instead, let's put them in the PMP program because they're willing to take it. Like, that's not how we think. Jeff wants the best RA he can find. I want the best RA I can find. Anne Goodchild wants the best RA she can find. All of us want the best RA we can get. So you're not going to end up in the PMP and not as a research track student just because you check that box.
Yeah.
You know, but also we're not going to admit you into the research track just because you check that box. So just literally that box is like, if you would be willing to come as a PMT student, then take it, then check it. And if not, don't, and don't overthink it. It's good to mention, but back to your question, it is good to mention that you're interested in an RA in your statement.
Yeah. There's a question about, is it mandatory to secure a supervisor before you apply if you want to work as a T or RA? I would think it's helpful to contact the faculty members, but it works both ways, right? So if we see a student have a strong background that aligns with my research area, I will reach out to a student as well. So it works both ways. But from a student perspective, it might be helpful to contact faculty that you really interested in working with, right? So not like I sent to all the faculty members and, you know, try to, you know, play the game. It's really, you have to be sincerely really interested in the research. Yeah.
So the last question from Evie is a fun one. And I'll say this, Evie, right? This is a case study in how to lie with statistics. So it rains less in Seattle than in most American cities. If you base it on millimeters of precipitation per year or inches of precipitation per year. We get about 36 inches of rain per year, which is less than like most of your cities in Virginia or the Midwest or the Northeast. It's just that it comes in the form of a slow drizzle that lasts from November to April. So the number of days with rain is very high. The actual amount of rain is small. What that means is, like, it's a little gray in the winter. It's a little gray today.
Yeah.
It tends to be gray in the winter. But you know, you can get out and you can deal with it because it's not, don't picture it like it's being in an East Coast thunderstorm all winter long.
Exactly. I want to mention.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like Jeff bikes to work year round, right?
Yeah.
And I've started walking instead, but you know, I bike commuted for many years. And it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I moved from the East Coast, from upstate New York to Seattle. I observed for last 10 years, actually, maybe this is only my experience, the number of rainy days reduced. So my current
No, you're just getting used to it, man.
yeah. So so the most rainy times to me now is in December and January. So that's the 2 months that really cloudy and rainy. But once you get to February, to me it's hope that things will get back to normal. And then into April it will be much better. Yeah. That's sort of my take on that.
Yeah, I think everyone has their own different preferences and coping mechanisms. For me, November is it's like the days are still getting shorter. It's still rainy. By the time we get to December, then it's like get ready for the holidays, and I'm distracted. And then once we pass Christmas, it's ski season. So, I know Jeff skis too. I ski.
Yeah.
It's then you got your reason to get outside again. So anyway, what I would say is if you come here, plan to stay in the summer. The summers here are like the best of any place in the world.
Yeah.
It's really great. Yeah.
How may we contact you after this session? You can email us. There's an email, you can find our email from the website. So
yes, you can find us on the website. That's probably the easiest. And yeah, anything else? So I'm glad we waited for the questions to start flowing, right? I was just about ready to shut down the call there when they were, people a little slow, but there were lots of questions. So thank you all for joining. Thanks for your questions. Hope this has been helpful. And if you want to reach out, feel free. And certainly appreciate your time and attention and consideration of the UW.